What we focus on here at the center are aquatic and invasive plants, so we focus on aquatic and upland invasive plants. My name is Lara Colley, and I am the education coordinator at the Center for Aquatic and Invasive Plants. And so my job is to create educational content related to invasive plants, do outreach, do like community service events, and essentially just try to raise awareness for invasive plants and raise concern for them. Invasiveness is defined by a plant that is introduced to a new location, grows aggressively, is resistant to control or is resilient, has multiple modes of reproduction, and basically crowds out native plants. So we call these our mesocosms, and so they're like mini ecosystems, and the researchers are agronomists or invasive plant biologists. Those are the researchers that work out here. They use these mesocosms to grow invasive plants and do herbicide treatments on them. And so what we have out here are water hyacinth, hydrilla, and water lettuce. Those are the main invasive plants out here. This is water hyacinth. This is one of the most heavily managed aquatic plants in Florida. And so it's a floating aquatic plant. It has beautiful lilac flowers, and it was introduced partly because of how beautiful it is. In the 1800s, it was introduced from like a fair in New Orleans, and people used it in their ornamental ponds, and then it was ultimately brought to Florida and released in the St. Johns River. It basically grows shore to shore and creates really heavy, thick mats that make waterways unnavigable. Invasive plants are extremely complicated for a variety of reasons. Our geographic position, where we are, the fact that like our latitude, so where we have subtropical, humid subtropical, tropical, and temperate environments, so that just creates a lot of different climates for different invasives to, take hold. The fact that we are a peninsula, so we have lots of shipping ports. So I think we have 16 or 17 shipping ports. So that just adds to our susceptibility for new plants being brought in via those shipping ports. We have a high population, and we also have a high population of people who come from other states. And so there's also this element of our perception of plants and our emotional connection to plants that we have. So this one is water lettuce. It's a floating invasive aquatic plant. So one of the problems with invasive plants is that they tend to form what we call monocultures. So essentially they become one of the only species once they take over an environment. So they are able to crowd out other native plants by way of shading them. Some produce compounds that make it more difficult for other plants to grow. We've been bringing plants to this state since Europeans arrived in Florida. So since the late 1400s, we've been bringing plants not just for food, seeds, for trade, for ornamental. We've been, planting plants that don't belong here for a long time. And a lot of them end up being fine and not growing out of control and displacing native plants. And they are fine, but then about 10% of the plants that we bring become invasive and tend to take over and have explosive population growth. If we do nothing, then we risk losing so many species of animals, organisms, insects, plants. We run the risk of having just a few species take over everything. And so we have a duty to try to minimize the impact of invasive plants by managing them.